Hello, my name is Scribble, and this is the Week 2 game for the Seoul Draft League versus Pharaoh. If you haven't seen the team builder for this week, go check that out, and you'll see what we brought and why. And you'll also see the whole team building process from start to finish, because I just built the team from scratch in that video. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, let's just get right into the replay analysis. So the game starts at team preview. So let's take a second to look over what he brought and what types of information we can gain from that. So as you can see, he brought Latios, Enamorous Incarnate, Hisuian Zoroark, Excadrill, Weezing, and Gyarados, which is Terra Ghost. Nothing too crazy. There's no like random Rhydon or Turtwig. So yeah, nothing super unexpected. The thing that surprised me the most, I suppose, was the lack of Tyranitar, which means there's no sand for the Excadrill. And right away, that tells me the Excadrill is most likely not his main win con. And it could be defensive. It looks like the only semblance of a Deoxys check on his team at this point, because there are only two Psychic resists, Excadrill and Latios, and then Latios is pretty weak to Deoxys' common coverage, like Ice Beam and Knockoff, whereas Excadrill would have to get hit by Superpower or Focus Blast, which have drawbacks. And everything else just gets annihilated by Psycho Boost. We don't have Psycho Boost, unfortunately, but that's the type of information I get from seeing no sand. There's also no Heatran, which means there's no Ice Resist. And the lack of Ice Resists in the Honest Draft was something that we exploited in the team builder, with Tentacruel being like this Life Orb, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam set. So Tentacruel looks pretty good here. We'll be able to get it in on Weezing and like Zoroark and stuff. Our Terra Water Annihilate also looks pretty good. He did bring both of his water resists, but it doesn't really change the fact that they're not physically bulky, and if the Gyarados is Intimidate, it's just going to give us a Defiant boost. So Terra Ghost on the Gyarados is the other interesting thing, because Ghost wasn't a type I had really considered in the team builder, but I can see the rationale for it. If it has Terra Blast, it's a type that hits Deoxys, Annihilate, and Metagross all in one move slot. And it has the benefit of being immune to extreme speed, and I brought that for priority on Deoxys last week. And it also means he's not weak to Draining Kiss from Comfey. So like that's the benefit of like Terra Ghost as opposed to Terra Dark, which could accomplish something similar. So that type tells me the Gyarados is most likely Dragon Dance. I mean, that's not a super hard deduction. Gyarados usually is Dragon Dance regardless, but the Terra type does let me know the Gyarados is probably his win con. There's no sand for the Excadrill, so that's like even more of an indicator, unless the Latios or the Enamorous is a setup set. But at least the Gyarados could be an alternate win condition. Alright, so we have a dedicated lead in Metagross. So let's just get into the game. So I lead Metagross, and he actually leads Excadrill, which reveals Mold Breaker, makes sense, no sand, and Air Balloon. In the team builder, I did not mention Excadrill as a possible lead, or a possible likely lead. He can technically lead with whatever he wants. But it makes sense with no sand, because this isn't his win con. This could just be his rocker, and he wants to get rocks up turn 1. Air Balloon makes sense to catch my Ting Lu lead. And it also protects from like Metagross Earthquake, which I do have. I don't have like Hammer Armor, unfortunately. So my guess is he's trying to like anti-lead my Deoxys or Ting Lu with this. But I am Focus Sash Metagross, so I can live any one hit from this Excadrill. I believe Earthquake is like a roll to Oko me, but with my Sash I never die. So I can just attack this if I want to. And I think he's just going to get up rocks. That's what I think will happen this turn, because I can't really threaten a kill from this. I mean, it's pretty unlikely that I have Hammer Arm based on the rest of his team. So I think clicking rocks here is pretty likely from him. So I decide to just attack and break his balloon. Especially because if he clicks rocks, then I can stay in the next turn because I still have my focus sash, and then I can just pick off the Excadrill if I want to. He actually clicks Rapid Spin, which surprises me. I think that's an inaccuracy on his part. I think he's trying to catch my switch to, like, I don't know what, really. I mean, I guess Alolan Executor is my ground resist here, but I could also just go Ting-Lu easily on this. And I guess he wanted to be faster than my Tentacruel, and my Tentacruel is EV'd to be faster than an unboosted Excadrill. So that could be his reason. But I don't think Rapid Spin is the click here. If he had Rocks, I think he should have clicked Rocks here. So I'm going to switch to my Alolan Executor, because, I mean, I was okay with sacking my Metagross in this game, but if I could preserve it, then why not, right? He's very pressured to click Earthquake this turn, because I showed I was willing to stay in versus the Excadrill, and now he can actually die to my Metagross because I popped his Air Balloon. So I think he's very pressured to click Earthquake, and I think that's what he's going to click. And he does click Earthquake. And so now my Alolan Executor is in position. I don't really know what he'll do this turn, so I decide to just attack what's in front of me. If he switches, I get damage on something, and we'll just go from there, basically. This Excadrill can't kill me with anything. Here he attacks me with X-Scissor, so he did actually prep for Alolan Executor, funnily enough. But I attack what's in front of me, and I pick off the Excadrill with Flamethrower. But that X-Scissor actually works out in my favor as he goes Gyarados here, because the X-Scissor puts me perfectly into Custap Berry range. And now that I have Custap Berry, I can go first this turn and just hit this Gyarados with a strong Draco Meteor and put it at 25% HP. If this Gyarados isn't Boots, it dies to Rocks, which is really cool. And if he Dragon Danced this turn, I was kind of hoping he would, because if he did click Dragon Dance, I would get a 50% chance to have my Custap Berry come back because of my Harvest ability. And even if it doesn't, I can endure the turn after for another 50% chance to get my Custap Berry back. And this Gyarados is in guaranteed range of another Draco Meteor at this point. So, unfortunately, he does just attack me and Alolan Executor goes down, but it did its job. And then I go Annihilate here. I want to go Annihilate because I want to get my Terra off. At this point, I'm in a pretty commanding position. I got rid of the Excadrill, which means there is no more Stealth Rock potential and also no more Rapid Spin potential. So if I get up my rocks, they're here to stay. And the Gyarados is severely weakened to the point when I'm not worried about it anymore. It's always in range of my Deoxys to Revenge Kill it now. And my Deoxys is faster than a Gyarados even after a Dragon Dance. So the Gyarados is basically neutralized, the Excadrill is dead, so I'm thinking about what can possibly go wrong at this point. And what I think is most likely to become an issue is the Enamorus, because, I mean, I don't have a comfortable switch into it. My team isn't really geared towards switching anyway, and my Fairy resists are Tentacruel and Metagross, both of which are weak to Earth Power, and because they're not very bulky, well, they are pretty bulky Pokemon, but they have no bulk investment, really. So an Earth Power from Enamorus would hurt them. So I think the Enamorus could be a problem. So I want to Terra my Annihilate, because if I can remove my Fairy weakness on this, it gives me another pivot option on the Enamorus, or something that can at least live a hit and then Revenge Kill it. So I think it's pretty important to go Annihilate and get my Terra off here. This Gyarados is in range of Banded Terra Blast Water. Another potential upside this turn is there is a non-zero chance he goes Hisuian Zoroark on this turn, predicting my Ghost or Fighting move. I think that would be a bad play, but it's possible. So I just go my Annihilate, and I click Terra Water, Terra Blast, Choice Banded, and it does like nothing to the Weezing, which switches in, revealing to be like full physically defensive. It doesn't show Leftovers Recovery or Black Sludge, I guess, so it's probably Rocky Helmet, which is what we expected in the Team Builder. And now, this might seem a little strange. If you remember the Team Builder, my Ting-Lu is red card. And I have no reason to pop my red card on this Wheezing, because the Wheezing is no threat. It's not gonna like set up or like kill my entire team or anything like that. So why go Ting Lu and potentially waste my red card on the Wheezing? Well, the answer is the Wheezing is never going to attack my Annihilate this turn. So let's just go back for a second. So after I Terra Blast and do 37%, this Wheezing is now in range of 2 more Terra Blasts guaranteed. So if this just attacks me with like Sludge Bomb or something, it's just gonna die the turn after and boost my Rage Fist in the process while doing like 30% to me at best. So his only options this turn are to click Will-O-Wisp or Pain Split to not lose to Annihilate 1v1. And so he does end up clicking Will-O-Wisp, which misses. So a little lucky on our end. This is like the 3rd Will-O-Wisp we've dodged this season, and we're 2 games in. So that's cool. I don't think this really matters that much, but I mean, I'll take it. And so here, he doesn't really have a Ting Lu switch in either. Well, Wheezing is his Ting Lu switch in, and I don't think he's going to attack me this turn. I think he's going to status me or Pain Split. Like, he'll just like Will-O-Wisp me or Pain Split to get some of his health back. So I just get up my rocks this turn, knowing he's not going to attack me, and now I can switch out and keep my red card for later. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my Tentacruel, because Tentacruel just does not fear anything from Wheezing, really. And it threatens special damage on it, and Wheezing doesn't really want to take that hit. And now Tentacruel can actually be a breaker here, because he doesn't really have a great switch into it. Wheezing clicks Pain Split this turn, which is actually notable because it means Banded Terra Blast is now, I believe it's a roll to 2-hit KO after rocks from this point, rather than being guaranteed, which is pretty significant. So now I can click Hydro Pump or Ice Beam here. In hindsight, I think I should have clicked Ice Beam because it covers his switch-ins better, like the potential Latios as a water resist. It can't miss either, and it's going to do a lot to Enamorus. It'll kill Gyarados at this range, I think, and then Zoroark gets 2-shot, I think. And basically the main upside is it can't miss, and it does more to Latios. But I click Hydro Pump here, just I guess in case the Wheezing stayed in, but in hindsight, Ice Beam is the better click here. He goes hard Enamorus, which is a little surprising, but I'm not going to click a poison move in that situation, so I can kind of see it, and he wants to like threaten me out with like an Earth Power or a Psychic move maybe. But this Enamorus is revealed to be Boots, and that means it's not Scarfed, which is actually pretty important. In the team builder, we talked about how one of Latios, Enamorus, and Zoroark should be Scarfed versus us, and we need to identify that Scarfer and remove it so our Deoxys can win the game. Or maybe not remove it, but at least make sure we're behind a sub if it's still around. So we know the Enamorus isn't Scarfed, and because it's boosts, because it is heavy-duty boots, it's not choice specs, which means its damage output is not that high. I mean, it's still decently strong, but it's not as strong as it could be. So I'm no longer that scared of the Enamorus. Plus, it's also just in range of a lot of hits now. Can't really switch it comfortably anymore. Now I don't really want to sack my Tentacruel. My Tentacruel is still pretty good here. It can come in on Wheezing and just apply more pressure. It can also live a Zoroark hit from this range, which is always good to have in the back. It outspeeds Gyarados. So I don't really want to take an Earth Power. And what I like to do is actually I go to my Annihilate this turn, because my Annihilate can guarantee live and Earth Power into a Moonblast from the Enamorus, from full health. However, he doubles into his Latios, and I don't know if this is the correct play from him, but I honestly don't know what he should have done instead, because I think I am very far ahead this game, and I think he does need to make aggressive plays to, like, come back, basically. But I don't know if Latios really accomplishes that. My best guess is he was trying to catch my Deoxys switch in, thinking maybe I would fear a Psychic move from the Enamorus, but I would also live Earth Power. And so if I go Deoxys, that can cover both, and then I can outspeed and revenge. And then maybe Latios has something for Deoxys, like maybe this is the Scarfer. So, it ends up working out for me, because Annihilate versus Latios is pretty nice for me, because unless this Latios is Specs Draco Meteor, it cannot kill me in one hit with anything. But I'm really far ahead, and I don't really need to risk this being Specs Draco Meteor. If it elects to stay in Draco, then I'll confirm if it's Specs or not. So I just go into my Ting Lu, and I'll proc my red card if it attacks me, but I don't really care at this point. And if the Latios was Calm Mind or something, then going Ting Lu is also correct here. But he catches me on a double and goes Wheezing. But I'm, like, totally chilling. I feel no pressure to change how I'm playing right now. I'm making a lot of, like, obvious basic switches, but because I'm so far ahead, it's the correct play. I don't need to change what I'm doing, especially because... Or not even especially. It's explicitly because he has Stealth Rocks up on his side and I don't. Which means each time we both make a switch, he is losing HP on his Pokemon and I'm not, which means I'm making progress in the game, but he isn't. So he's the one pressured to change the situation. But if I just keep things the same, then I'm just going to win eventually. So what I do here is I just go right back into my Tentacruel on the Wheezing, as it Pain Splits and does nothing, because it Pain Splits. I think it Pain Splitted my Tentacruel earlier. Yeah, it heals like 1% HP. And now I just have another free click with my Tentacruel to break something. And here I recognize that Ice Beam was actually a better click all along, and I'll click it here as he goes Latios. So maybe clicking Hydro Pump was better here because it lured in the Latios, and now I could Ice Beam it. And it's almost in Stealth Rock range, which is unfortunate. And now I can just go into my Ting Lu once again. I can just make the same basic switch as he clicks a Luster Purge here. I don't agree with this click. I think he's so far behind that he needs to make some sort of play. And I already showed Ting Lu to be my initial switch into the Latios, so I think he could have confidently expected the Ting Lu to come in and clicked a coverage move for it, because surely this has a coverage move for Ting Lu. But unfortunately, he clicks Luster Purge, and now I do think this Latios is choice locked. I don't technically know if it's Scarf or Specs, but because it's switched out on my Annihilate, I think it might be Scarfed, because I think if he was Specs, he may have been more tempted to click Draco Meteor that turn. But regardless, he goes Gyarados, and I can just Whirlwind now. And I can just Whirlwind until I have a reason not to, basically, just getting more Stealth Rocks damage on his team. I ended up dragging in the Latios again, which is good for me. Now it dies to Rocks, so I can just click Whirlwind again and kill it, basically. And it also covers him switching. He Grass Knots, so this is what I think he should have clicked on the Luster Purge turn. But he Grass Knots, my red card procs, Enamorous comes in. This is Boots, so the Rocks chip doesn't matter. Then in comes Gyarados. So this is what he wanted to go initially on Ting Lu that I Whirlwinded out the first time. So we kind of ended up in like the situation he wanted, except my Ting Lu has less health. But even in the situation he wanted, this is pretty good for me. The Latios is now just dead to Rocks. So I gained a lot, because the Latios is dead, and now I can go Annihilate. It's covering a water move, and if this clicks Dragon Dance or something, my Deoxys always outspeeds, and my Annihilate lives from full, and can just kill it the turn after. So he Terra Ghosts and clicks Waterfall here. I don't think the Terra does anything for him, but it doesn't really matter either. Now Terra Blast Water just gets me a kill. Wheezing gets 2 KO'd after Rocks at this HP, and then everything else dies. So I just click Terra Blast as he sacks his Gyarados. Then here he goes to his Latios, and it just dies to Rocks. And this is also a pretty big mistake on his part. Ultimately, I don't know if it would have changed anything in the game, but when you have a sack that dies to hazards like this, there's no reason to waste it, because going Latios now just ends the turn immediately, and you don't gain anything from the sack. Instead, what you should do is go something else here, Like, say, for example, he gets his Enamorus in and kills something on my team. Then I can go Deoxys and revenge the Enamorus, but he doesn't want his Enamorus to die, so what he could then do is switch into his Latios and sack it to rocks. And that extra sack buys him a turn to then go into like Scarf Zoroark to revenge my Deoxys or something like that. So I don't know if that's what his sets are, but keeping this sack around couldn't hurt. It's just getting rid of an option he had. So when you have sacks, just keep them around until you need them. There's just no point in doing this now. But it's good for me, and I don't have to worry about the Latios sack anymore. As he goes Weezing, he gets the free switch to Weezing, which means Terra Blast does not... Well, Terra Blast won't kill this from this health, and then I don't really want to be Will-O-Wisped. So I just go into my Tentacruel once again, as he doubles into his Enamorus. So good play on his part, and I don't really want to sack my Tentacruel once again because it's still good versus Weezing and it can still live a Shadow Ball from Zoroark. But now I have a sack in my Ting-Lu, which doesn't do anything for me anymore. So I can just go Ting-Lu and then spam Whirlwind until it dies, basically, and then get in my Deoxys and then basically try to clean up the game. The Enamorus clicks Calm Mind here, so it is a setup variant, but I'm perfectly happy to just Whirlwind with Ting-Lu and sack it off in case he just doesn't attack me, or maybe if he gets greedy and tries to Agility or something, but I do have Bullet Punch in the back for that too. Anyway, I just go into my Deoxys. I'm guaranteed faster. I guarantee kill with Ice Beam. He doesn't have a switch in, so I just pick it off. Then in comes Zoroark. This is not Weezing because this is at full health. And now I take a bit to think through this turn, because obviously I'm in a winning position to this game. It's just a question of how do I close it out in the safest way possible. Pokemon is a game with a lot of luck, and part of Pokemon is managing probability. So when you're in a position when you need to close out a game, you want to look for the path that gives you the best odds of winning, or risks the least amount of RNG is another way to look at it. Like misses on moves, or like crits, freeze chances, anything like that. And even this is a pretty simple end game for me to calculate through, but even still, it's good to take time if you have it to just think through and not choke. Don't psych yourself out though. That's another thing that's a danger of overthinking. But all you have to do is think through the worst possible scenario that could happen this turn, and then play around that. So the worst possible thing that could happen for me is if this Zoroark is Choice Scarfed, because I die to Scarf Shadow Ball from this health. Metagross also dies to Scarf Shadow Ball, and Annihilate and Tentacruel, they can both live 1, but not 2. So with all that in mind, I could see some sort of... It's a little fictional. It probably is entirely fictional, but maybe there's some situation where Zoroark can just Shadow Ball like half my team, and then I run out of ways to kill the Weezing. I think that's a possible lose condition I have, so I want to play around that. So let's assume this Weezing is Choice Scarf. What happens if I just sack my Deoxys to it? Like, let's say I just click Ice Beam and I die to Shadow Ball. What I calculate is I can go Tentacruel the turn after. Tentacruel guarantee lives a Shadow Ball, and I can click Ice Beam. Ice Beam will put the Zoroark in range of Metagross Bullet Punch. It won't kill, but the benefit of going Tentacruel is it also easily covers him switching into Weezing, because it gets 2-shot by Ice Beam and then can't do anything to Tentacruel either. And then if Weezing dies and then Zoroark comes back, it's just the same situation. I just sack Tentacruel to get an Ice Beam off and then go Metagross and Bullet Punch and win. So that's the plan. Oh, and also Bullet Punch from Metagross into Heavy Slam kills the Weezing from this health. That is an important part of the line. In fact, I don't even need Bullet Punch necessarily, because Heavy Slam is just a roll to kill Weezing after rocks at the health it's at. I believe it's like a 50% roll, almost exactly. So that should be a guaranteed win. So that's the line I go for. And so I just elect to sack off my Deoxys, but it turns out the Zoroark isn't Scarfed, because it's not boots and it's not life orb at the end of this turn, as you'll see, so it's probably specs. So I can just go into my Metagross now and preserve as much differential as possible, because this is probably specs. My Tentacruel and Annihilate might die to it, so I just go Metagross to Bullet Punch, dies, and this is like a 50% roll to kill the Weezing, and I go for it, I'm faster, and I get it, and we win in a clean 3-0 victory. So this was a much cleaner game than last week. I think pretty much every turn went our way, and I think we can attribute that a lot to learning from our mistakes from last week. The big issue we had was we got the lead matchup wrong, and we were playing from behind, like, for most of the game. And that was like a conscious decision we made to correct that this week. So we had a dedicated lead in Metagross, and we thought through like how Metagross could help us with offensive momentum, because he doesn't really have a comfortable switch into this. I do think Rapid Spin was a mistake from him turn 1, but you capitalize off your opponent's mistakes. That's part of the game. And we were sashed anyway, so we didn't die to Earthquake at least. And yeah, so Metagross, being that dedicated lead slot, I think put us into a good position. Then Alolan Executor actually just cemented it for us. It was the only Pokemon in my draft that could do what it did here. Switching into Excadrill safely and then just killing it, and then neutralizing the Gyarados was pretty important, because the Gyarados being so weakened meant it was like no threat. And basically from, I guess not this turn specifically, but after I get my Terra off and then Rocks up, I think the game is essentially over. So basically as early as turn 7. Because he can't get rid of these rocks, and I can just switch forever, and he'll lose eventually to something I have in the back. And yeah, so what did we overall learn from this game? I think the lesson is genuinely that it is really helpful to reflect on your games and then think about what you could have done differently and what went wrong and why. So even though we won last week, it was not a comfortable win by any means. It could have easily gone the other way, and there are a lot of issues in both our play and prep that we sought out to correct, and so we fixed them this week, and we got a much cleaner game as a result. I think our prep was pretty good. We exploited the type chart weaknesses. We had a good lead matchup. We had reliable win cons. And then I'm so happy Alolan Executor got to do something. I'm a little sad I didn't get to harvest another Custap Berry, but that's fine. It did its job. And I'm also a little sad Deoxys didn't get to click Meteor Beam, but maybe we can do that a different week. And yeah, I believe that will be it. So thank you for watching, and next week we are playing Cypher, I believe. So I will see you for the team builder for that. All right, bye-bye.